Okay. Good morning. Welcome to the Board of Commissioners meeting for August 2nd, 2023. We're going to begin with the salute to the flag, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. All right. We have a lot of brass in the room this morning, which is a good thing. We're happy to have you guys here and our co-responders as well. A presentation we're very excited about, and I'm just going to get right to it. Rachel Neff, our Director of Human Services, is going to also have, I'll let you introduce who you're going to have.
Good morning. Thank you, Commissioners, for having us here this morning. As you said, I'm Rachel Neff, and I'm the Director of Human Services here at the county. And I'm really fortunate to be joined today by a terrific team so that we can give you an update in terms of how the co-responder program in Bucks County is progressing. So along with my remarks, you'll be hearing from Chief McVeigh from Bensalem, Chief Whitney from Falls, and on the county side, we're joined by Yvonne Kowalski, who is a welcomed leader on the Human Services team and has developed a lot of this program, as well as Walter Bynum, who was one of our first co-responders several years ago. And while you may not hear from everyone who is in the room today, I just want to acknowledge that we have a number of police departments who are here today, and we have our entire Human Services team that I'm fortunate to work alongside. So first, we had to start this initiative from nothing, and Commissioner Marseglia, I want to appreciate that this was a vision that you had to bring to the county and that you recognize the critical need for the partnership with law enforcement. Thank you for your leadership, and we've needed it and will continue to need it as we move forward. Commissioner Harvey and Commissioner DiGirolamo, as well as our Chief Operating Officer, Margie McKevitt, you have pledged your support throughout the years to this initiative. And again, we've grown from nothing to an initiative that's now working with 18 police departments. So thank you for your support. I also want to acknowledge that in the early days of launching, or months of launching this program, that we had other key partners that were critical to moving it ahead. Our district attorney, as well as our current sheriff, were key partners in bringing this program to life. So I appreciate their work as well. As I have shared before, this program is really about connecting people to services. And as a leader in the Human Services Division, one of my goals is to create access for people when they need help. And if they need services and programs and support, our division needs to show up along with our nonprofit partners. So even if those calls are coming in through 911, we should be involved and responsive in the appropriate way. Our co-responder team is really, right now we're at 8 individuals, but what they do is they're embedded in police departments so that they can respond often with police officers and immediately after with situations that are coming to police that need more of a social service response. And as you'll see on the screen, these are the program goals that we set when we launched the initiative back in 2020, and our goals remain the same. It's really to decrease the time that law enforcement spends in responding to situations involving social services. It's to provide a more streamlined and effective response to people when they are coming to the attention of police when they have a social service need. And finally, it's to divert individuals from moving further through the criminal justice system when they're presenting with a social service need. So these have been our goals from the start, and I think they're extremely important ones that we continue to follow through with. Next slide. I want to acknowledge that I think it was pretty remarkable for the county to bring this program forward in the time that we did. 2020 was a challenging time for our country, and we had partnerships across the county to make this happen. Our human services directors were all involved in this, our emergency services department, public defender's office, our district attorney's office was important, as well as our nonprofit partners and an evaluator. So again, we worked together quickly in the summer of 2020, and we hired our first co-responders later that year in December of 2020. Next slide. So as you'll see here, we launched in Bensalem. And again, Chief McVeigh, I have very much appreciated your partnership throughout this initiative moving forward. We could not have done this program without a partnership with the police department. I also want to acknowledge that Chief Whitney and Chief Barbarella from Falls and Middletown were early to follow with this program. And frankly, every single police chief and lieutenant who is in this room today, I want to personally say thank you for believing in this and committing to it and partnering with our division. So thank you. Chief McVeigh is going to share some remarks in terms of how Bensalem has, how this has impacted the Bensalem community, and then it will move over to Chief Whitney and Yvonne and Walter.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, everyone in attendance. My name is Bill McVeigh. I am the Director of Public Safety for Bensalem Township. And as just been presented to you, we were involved with this program since 2020, when then Director Fred Herring, along with District Attorney Matt Weintraub, and the County Commissioners brought this program to the County of Bucks. If you were not aware, which you probably are, cops are skeptics. I was actually skeptical at the time, considering what we were going through as a country of this program. But I'm very glad to say 3 years later, it's been a huge success in Bensalem and in the County of Bucks. In Bensalem in particular, we've helped about 450 people through Walt Bynum's efforts. Our Lieutenant Adam Coleman is here, who oversees the program. I receive weekly updates on their status, but what I hear on a daily basis on the police radio is our police officers on the street calling, asking for Walt to come out. If Walt's not in, we find out because the cops are disappointed that Walt's not there to come out and help them. We're not the best at dealing with mental health, people in crisis. We do our best, but having someone like Walt and his fellow co-responders available greatly increases our chances of success and decreases any chance of things going wrong, which can happen very easily with mental health. Rachel had indicated some of the goals, and I would testify today that those goals have come to fruition. Cops are spending less time on repeat calls, and we're also able to connect the people in our community with a professional who can streamline all of the services, which was a huge missing piece in the system for years that I saw personally on the street. The last thing I would say is I personally encountered a situation last week while driving home from work. I found an elderly woman in crisis. She was dressed in winter clothes, standing in a driveway. It was 95 degrees out, obviously in distress. She was schizophrenic. She was running away from me, did not want to talk to me. She ran away from our police officers when they showed up. We eventually got family there to get her safe. She eventually escaped from her house again and locked herself in the local food store for 2 hours. We're able to get Walt involved with that case, connect him to the family, successfully get her the mental health treatment she needs. But more importantly now, Walter can work with that family to reduce our calls and reduce the police officers going in that situation. So I commend the county, I commend Fred Herring, Matt Weintraub, everyone who brought this program here, and it's been a huge success, in my opinion, from Bensalem, and one that we've committed to as a township to continue for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone, commissioners and everyone else in the room. I'd like to start with the commissioners, if you guys will indulge me. In establishing the Human Service Co-Responder Program, you have done something truly wonderful. You stepped outside the box that so often traps leaders in doing things the way that they have always been done. It's not so easy to do that. It's easy to get caught up in budgets, in solving issues in existing programs, and the constant influx of responsibilities that fill your days. All of these things make it hard to truly innovate. But you did it. You went all the way back to the basic idea of government. John Locke, and the social contract between people and their government. Government is the means by which society organizes itself in order to accomplish collective goals and provide benefits that the community as a whole need. These community needs include providing help for individuals and families who are struggling with mental illness, traumatic events, domestic violence, and geriatric issues. This is where the Human Service co-responders come in, helping connect people with services to make their lives better. You know, an idea is a good one when after you've implemented it, you ask yourself, why haven't we been doing this for the last 20 years? That's what this program is. That's how good it is. If we were designing local government today, Human Service co-responders would be part of it. I thank you for bringing this program to Falls Township. Commissioner Marseglia, I remember our first meeting, and you had me at hello. I loved the idea. Luckily, my Board of Supervisors instantly embraced the idea as well, and for that I thank them as well. This serves as an example of how subnational governments at the county and local level can work together to make great things happen. As we all know, people call the police for everything. From barking dogs and neighbor disputes to violent crimes, everything comes to us. For decades, we responded to calls for service involving mental health issues, and if the person involved was not in crisis often, we drove away. We got them through the night, but we didn't really help them in the long term. This is where our co-responders shine. Partnered with a police officer, a co-responder is a transformative change in how we can provide assistance to those in need. In particular, our co-responder, Kara, I like to brag about, she's out there somewhere. Kara has been a truly dedicated and caring person who has demonstrated time and time again that she is invested in helping people in our community. It's hard to believe that we've only had Kara as part of our Falls Township family since December of 2021 because it feels like she has always been there. In addition to responding to calls for service, Kara comes to our monthly staff meetings to give us a briefing on how things are going in Falls and throughout the county. She publishes a regular newsletter that goes to all our personnel and even joins us at community events at our senior center, Coffee with a Cop, and last night at National Night Out. Over time, co-responders reduce the strain on the 911 system by providing an alternative to people who need ongoing assistance. And believe me, people contact Kara directly all of the time. Each time one of these direct contacts with Kara is one less 911 call. Having a co-responder also decreases the amount of time our police officers spend on a call for service that involves social service issues. This frees up our police officers to handle other calls for service and criminal matters. This program also helps, as has been noted, divert individuals away from the criminal justice system and toward behavioral health services. In short, it helps people. It helps people who, without this program, would continue to struggle and fail to have a better life. I'm glad to see this program expand throughout Bucks County, and I know that every community with a Human Service co-responder will have the same positive results that we have seen in Falls Township. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Yvonne Kowalski. I'm the Community Engagement Officer here at the county, and I support the co-responder program. And I just want to talk a little bit more and add to what Rachel was saying, and I'd like to talk about the expansion and our co-responders. So after the pilot program in Bensalem with co-responder Walter showed impressive results in December 2021, we expanded our co-responder program into Falls and Middletown Township Police Departments with co-responder Kara Godinsky and Jessica Lepresti, and now Bristol Township, Bristol Borough, Tullytown Police Departments with co-responder Tia Kazi and China Schwinn. Earlier this year, our Upper Bucks team, Chris Doheny and now China Schwinn, hit the ground running with the police departments of Quakertown, Bedminster, Dublin Borough, Pembridge Regional, Perkasie, Richland Township, Springfield Hilltown, and Tinicum. And earlier this summer, Warrington, Warwick, and Warminster PD launched their programs with Katrina Matoni. And I have just been so lucky to be part of this team, and I know what a great impact they've been doing in the community. And our evaluator, Pat Griffin from Holy Family University, has stated that the Bucks County Human Services Co-Responder Program has been successful in diverting individuals from further entering the criminal justice system and getting their social service needs met. And while she was at the European Conference of Law Enforcement and Public Health in Sweden, the evaluator presented this data and a retrospective survey she conducted with over 70 officers in Bensalem, and the officers saying that the officers see the program as very valuable and said comments like, the co-responder de-escalates in a way that I cannot always, the co-responder deals with individuals experiencing paranoia and hallucinations, and the co-responder is always available even after and off-duty hours, and he's always responding. So the co-responders are not only having their work being recognized on an international level, but they're also being recognized on a regional and national level. So for example, each year, the Community Support Program, CSP, honors programs to highlight their hard work and dedication to CSP's vision and principles, and to foster new and existing memberships and celebrate recovery. In 2022, CSP awarded the co-responders team the CSP Helping Hands Award for their dedication and impact they are having in their communities. Also, the National Association of Counties recognizes the great work being done by county governments nationwide. Bucks County received the 2023 Achievement Award for the Human Services Co-Responder Program for the amazing impact they are having in the community and our county. And since 2020, the co-responders have received over 1,100 referrals. The county is incredibly proud and lucky to have such an amazing co-responder team. Thank you, Walter, Kara, Jess, China, and Katrina. Thank you to the police chiefs for all their support and investment and success of this program. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? So as you all probably know, I am one of the first two co-responders that were hired for this initiative. And I can say just from the onset of this program, I knew it was going to be a great program just because of the community need, but then also just, for the fact that we are building relationships. While law enforcement officers are going out and they're, responding to immediate need of the individual, we're staying on to help them as they, tackle their illnesses or the help they need. So while law enforcement are out there for an hour at the most, we're there 90, 60, 90, 120 days just to make sure these individuals are getting the support and help they need. But more importantly, we're also building relationships with these individuals. So for some of these individuals, they don't have any family members, any support systems, none of that. So we are filling that void, but more importantly, we are, becoming their friends. We are becoming their family members. We're becoming the individual that they call when they need support, or when they need someone to talk to. So I think this program has the ability to expand the entire county of Bucks and then move on to different parts of, cities and states so that everyone can get the support they need. When you're discussing social service or human service needs. So, realistically, I definitely want to thank Commissioner Marsegli for your vision, Fred for you coming to me and giving me the opportunity to present in this program and to also be effective in our community, especially, in Bensalem where I live, I support and I interact with individuals on a daily basis. So I think I can speak for all the correspondents when I say we appreciate and we thank you all for this opportunity. Everyone have a good day.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. And we obviously had a lot of people here and a lot of chiefs who came, or lieutenants who came a long way. I don't know if there's anybody else who wanted to comment just on anything, the experiences you've seen. I know that we have people here from a bunch of different departments, but certainly we thank Director McVeigh and Chief Whitney, Yvonne, obviously, Walter, representing the co-responders. But thank you for being here. Do you want to comment?
There's no more words for me to say.
Wait.
There's no more words for me to say. You've said everything. I just want a huge thank you to the chiefs. This obviously doesn't happen until you say yes. So every one of you took a risk on this, and we appreciate that you did that. There were also people, Rachel never said no, Margie never said no. When Yvonne came here, we already started it, and she just said, okay, hand it over to me. So all of you have made this possible. And to the co-responders, this brings me to tears, the work that you do every day. So I'm very grateful for all of it, and I thank you. Big shout out to Upper County, who's been with us now. I wasn't sure you guys would be willing to join us, and you did, and I'm very excited about that too. So thank you. I guess our next thing, we're going to do some more, right, Yvonne? We're ready to add some more co-responders. I'm thinking for the river towns maybe next, Morrisville, Lower Makefield, New Hope, Upper Makefield, all of them, okay.
Commissioner DiGirolamo?
Just real quick, thank everybody for being part of this program. I think I heard the number 1,100 referrals. Was that right, since the program started? I know Bill McVeigh from Bensalem mentioned over 400 people who have been served in Bensalem, and I just can't help wonder about the human side of this and the families that have been maybe reunited and put back together, the men and women who you've seen that have gotten in treatment, whether it's for mental health or drug and alcohol, and I'm a big believer in treatment when it comes to both mental health and drug and alcohol, and I really believe treatment work if you can get the right treatment, and especially with drug and alcohol for the proper length of stay. So the human side is enormous, but I wonder how many of those 1,100 people you've kept out of jail. And, you know, our correction system here in Bucks is almost overwhelmed with the number of people we have coming in, with the number of people that go into jail that need mental health services and also need to be detoxed when they get in. I mean, I think the last numbers I saw were that half the people that came in last month had to be detoxed when they got admitted into the prison. So, I mean, there is also a financial savings with this. I mean, the last I've seen, I think it's almost $100 a day that it's costing us here in Bucks County to house an inmate in there. So there's a financial savings in this program also. But most importantly, the human side. You're helping people put their lives back together. So to our co-responders, to the men and women of our police department, and to Rachel, your staff, and everybody that's responsible for this, I want to, you thanking us, the commissioners want to thank you for the great work that you're doing out in our community. Thank you.
Gene just reminded me of something when he said money. I had wanted to make sure that we made this promise to you, that I know we said we would pay for this for 2 years, and then we were turning to you and the townships. But I woke up in the middle of the night the other night and sent a text to Rachel and Yvonne that we got to get working hard because we want to keep funding it, if we can, after those 2 years. So we are out there looking for grants and all kinds of things. So we're there with you still. We won't give up.
Yeah, and obviously, echo the points have already been made. It does take, as Chief Whitney said, it takes creative thought. It's very easy to just keep doing things the way they've been done. You get into an institution, whether it's a police department or a county government or any government or any real institution that's been around for a while, and it's just easy to keep the momentum moving you in the same direction. And sometimes you're afraid to bring up ideas you think might work, or you can't find enough support to get that idea to work. So a lot of ideas, a lot of people had to have an open mind with this in order for it to happen. And that certainly, and this has been said already, but starts with Commissioner Marseglia. This has been something she has pushed for from the time she came in. There's something she talks about. She was doing this program, I won't say how long ago, actually, as she was a social worker in Trenton. This program was in place decades ago. And so now we're finally moving into this. And we know this is a great county. We know we have 54 great communities. Are there people who keep our police busy? Yes, unfortunately. You know, but I think they would agree, from our experience, as Commissioner DeGirolamo just mentioned, mental health and drug abuse are the two driving factors for the lion's share of problems we have with crime in this county. So if we can address those at their root and not on the back end, it makes the jobs of our police officers easier. It makes the jobs of the prison easier. And it actually delivers help to people, like real help that they need, so that they're not continually ending up, getting visits from police and ending up in jail, or they can get better, basically. So, so thank you for your commitments, and we really should also thank the elected officials. I know Chief Whitney mentioned it for Falls Township, but the supervisors, the councilmen, the mayors of all of your communities. All had to approve this too. And so, but as you probably know, being in the positions you are, it's tough to say no to a chief of police if you're an elected official. And so it helps to have you guys on that track. So we really, really appreciate it, and our staff as well. Thank you, and we're looking forward to expanding it. We're halfway through our departments, and we're just get the other half on board, and we'll be a model. I think we're already a model for the rest of the country, but we want to be an even better model. So thank you. Thank you. So appreciate it.
Well, can I see you? Can you see everybody?
All right, we're going to move forward. We really appreciate, this is a great way to start off a meeting, obviously showing the kind of work that's gone in over the past 3 years and continues to happen. So appreciate the cooperation of all those townships, all those boroughs, those departments, our own departments, and all the county agencies involved. All right, we'll move into public comment. This is an agenda items. Reminder for speakers to focus on items which are being voted on by the commissioners on the agenda. First name on the list is Scott Vogan.
Scott Vogan, Warrington Township. I see that Tom Freitag has resigned as Director of the Board of Elections. Kelly Gale is not a suitable replacement for him. As a matter of fact, Kelly should be fired also.
Mr. Vogan, none of what you're talking about is really being...
Personnel list.
All right, we're not going to be disparaging county employees at the microphone.
I'm conducting on their poor conduct and lack of ability to do the job. So she is not a suitable replacement. And when you find a new replacement, they got to be able to protect the judges of elections. Going on to agenda items, see your giving money to the Penn Foundation. Poor treatment up there. Mr. Giugiaro, you just said a few minutes ago, good treatment. The treatment up there is ridiculous. The providers up there are more worried about getting a paycheck than treating the patient. They're wasting time on paperwork. They're just saying, we don't help people, we don't fix people, they do it themselves. That's ridiculous. And so county money should not be going to a program that is not gonna help people. That's a waste of money. Reach out. I don't know what they're doing down there in either, because I know a lot of people who have stopped going to Reach Out because of Doug. And there was an individual who told the board of directors they would get a substantial sum of money if Doug would be fired, because he is that bad. He has gone things as to say, it's okay to be telling people it's offending, I'm offended by something on the wall, which is like a purple snowflake, I believe. Well, if he was offended by that, he's the executive director, why is it still on the wall? Because he liked to insult people, use his position for that, and you're funding and two organizations that are not helping people. And that's wrong. You should not be funding them. You should have an oversight. You should have more complaint where people can just file the complaints and say, hey, you've got a problem here, so you can pull the funding. Two very organizations that need a lot of reform, and so that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed Mackhouse?
Edward Mackhouse from Buckingham, scientist, physicist, and I'd like to comment on two items. The item 4 about children and youth, and item 12, juvenile probation. In general, I think your programs are doing well as far as I know, and I think as bipartisan, both Democrats and Republicans are working well together, and everyone cares about the children and making things better. As a scientist, I like to look at numbers and statistics. I think money is important, and you need money to keep all these programs. And we have to have a balance of right and wrong. I have as a physicist, Dr. John Clauser, physicist on Nobel Prize 2022, quantum mechanics, on the climate change hoax. He's saying that trillions of dollars are being wasted on this climate change. And this affects the money that's available. For example, the war on carbon dioxide, that causes the prices of everything to rise and causes more problems with people. So we need truth involved with this stuff. He says that climate change, the clouds, you have heat goes up, you get more clouds, and that reflects the light back. And so it's a natural process of heat and climate change is a natural process. And the carbon dioxide thing is not relevant. So we're spending trillions of dollars trying to keep the water from rising, where more money could be spent on helping people, helping children. And also, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a Democrat, talks about the vaccine hoax, the pushing drugs so much. There's remedies of how to treat the drugs, and it shouldn't be for the profit. So the pharmacies have been fined billions of dollars. So we have to have proper education, and we have to respect what works. And just giving drugs is not the answer. And so I'd like you to continue your good work and working together, Democrats and Republicans, and you should get credit for, so that we continue working together. But there are serious problems, and the trillions of dollars are wasted. We're the richest country in the world. We should be saving trillions of dollars and not spending $400 billion a year on interest, money we didn't have to borrow for these climate change hoax. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Robert McLean?
I may have missed this, but regarding the co-responders in the areas of Bucks County that are covered by the state police, what are you doing about that area, or are you trying to get the state police involved in that? Because in Milford Township, I don't believe there's much representation by local police. It's mostly state police. Second thing is 8A. Has to do with hazardous materials, approve radiological emergency response fund grant. I didn't have a chance to look up Act 147, but if you could just tell me what that's about. And then finally, I'm looking at (2H) Reach Out Foundation of Bucks County, $298,000 of ARPA funds. 9C Bucks County Housing Group, $405,000 of ARPA funds. And 9F Bucks County Opportunity Council, $206,000 of ARPA funds. Many of us and many in Washington are concerned about the national debt. And one of the ways to relieve the national debt is to claw back funds that are with the county. Now, some of these approvals that you're going to authorize are extended out until 12/31/2024. I don't get it. I don't understand why they are spent well after President Biden has declared that there's no COVID pandemic. It's over. So I'm confused, and I need your help with that, please. Thank you very much.
Okay, Kuhn Lee.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I just came in to talk about item 3 on the agenda that you had for the William Penn printing. And so, you know, we're talking about budgets for printing, but what is it used for? Are you guys sending it to find out inactive voters in the area? And my question was regards to how you are maintaining the voter rolls in the area. I know you have the Board of Elections, but, you know, election integrity is such a critical thing. I know you guys have heard this 1,000 times, but I mean, right now, there's about 33,859 that can be reviewed as inactive. So letters or some verification should be out there for everyone, for Democrats, Republicans, Independents, just to make sure that they are eligible to vote, that the review process is done. I know you guys say that you follow Title 77, but you guys need to follow Title 25, Section 1901 and the National Voter Rights Act. So you have to follow those as well, and that gives you, as a you know, county commissioners, the authority for oversight. It's not just the state, it's not just the federal, but as a county, you have a responsibility to all the constituents in this county to make sure that, you know, their voting integrity is held to the highest esteem, because, you know, that's how we work. I mean, I get it. There's populations and you know, we have people that work in jurisdiction, but there also should be outreach to the local community, local churches, so that, you know, rehabilitation will work as well. So I'm just trying to propose a more holistic approach, a more oversight. Title 77 compliance, certification. I mean, I just sent out a bunch of letters last year of people that don't exist in our area. And this is just a handful. I have a whole bag full. I have boxes at home. And just me and two old elderly ladies sent out letters to confirm who's in the area that should be voting, but these don't exist. So, and you guys, and I've been talking to the Board of Elections. I've been sending them emails. I've been trying to go through the process. But Jennifer Miller and Tom, they're like, okay, we clean it up. But I checked the rolls. I pulled on the data. They haven't done anything. They're still active, and they don't exist. And so my plea to you is that you just make sure you guys follow the law that you guys have, and just make sure it's done. And I know there's a lot of other things that you manage as a commissioners, and this is like a small thing. But, you know, people are just, I don't know if we have a republic or, you know, fair governance if if the vote is compromised. So thank you for your time, and you know, I'll take back my last 30 seconds.
Thank you. Beth Curcio?
Agenda item 4A, what is bridge housing? What's the meaning here? What is the goal of this, and what is the population does it serve? Is this part of us being a sanctuary county and trying to integrate illegals into our population? 9A3D, this adds up to over $1 million, all funding for rental assistance and acquisitions and repairs of multifamily rental housing, properties located at 800 Durham Road. Who are we planning to house there? How many families and where are they coming from? Are they coming through our non-existent border and being taken to our sanctuary county? Who are these people? Who's keeping track of them? Do you know that there are over 100,000 children missing that cross the border? Where are they? Who's trying to find them? They're not brought by their parents. They're brought by the cartel. Do we have a plan of action to stop all this in the beginning stages, like rebuilding the nuclear family? It's just constantly throwing gas on the fire. These children are in trouble. These people are being trafficked. I really hope you go see The Sound of Freedom. I hear the Democrats aren't watching it. It's really sad to know in the wealthiest country in the United States, children are being raped as we sit here, and we do nothing. Thank you.
Liz Youse?
Liz Youse, Northampton Township. 2A, $522,000 to approve a contract to operate a transition house. How many Bucks County residents does this money help in 1 year? 2B, where is this maximum supervision taking place for $53,000? 2B, C, and D, all are increasing the payments for contracts that ended in June. Why are we paying more for services that have already been rendered? I think it's great that Bucks County provides a lot of services for people with special needs, such as alcohol rehabilitation. Do you have an idea of how many Bucks County residents receive these services each year? How do residents of Bucks County find out about these programs and actually get these services? Do the providers of these services check to make sure that these patients are truly legal residents of Bucks County? 7C, is the completion date correct? It says February 5 of 2000. If so, why are we paying them an additional $40,000 for something that happened over 3 years ago? 3A, Board of Elections, $29,000 spent for election official supply boxes. I'm going to read from an article in the Georgia Record from last month. Attendees heard from several experts in election operations. David Cross, widely recognized for his work on election integrity across Georgia, spoke about the opportunity for counties to self-determine their method of conducting elections. He cited Georgia codes along with documented previous court cases in which the Georgia Secretary of State, Raffensperger, went on record stating that they do not have authority over county election officials. While considering moving to paper ballots and hand counting, the city of Milton identified over $250,000 in cost savings in the first year alone. If they are an example, counties may find reduced cost along with increased voter confidence by considering a move to paper ballots. In Milton, Georgia, there are 41,000 residents in that city. Bucks County has roughly 600,000 residents. Imagine how much we could save if they identified $250,000 in savings for 41,000 residents. If Georgia can consider moving to paper ballots alone, along with hand counting, of course, There is no reason that Bucks County can't use paper ballots alone and not use expensive machines that have the opportunity for fraud. Thank you.
Lori Katz.
Good morning. 2G and H, that's close to $600,000. What are these programs? What is the social rehabilitation drop-in center services for what age group? What population does this serve? What is a, quote, day shelter for adults? What does that mean here? And what population does this serve? 5A, please explain what type of telecommunication services are being extended for these inmates. Also, has anyone checked with the female inmates who are housed with men identifying as women to see if they're okay or being abused? Is there a female advocate assigned to the Women's Correction Facility who checks in on them? 11, what departments is this VPN covering? 19, a total of $9,250 is going to 4 nonprofit organizations. These are great organizations. There are no details in the agenda about how these programs will be spending the money. Please inform. Lastly, number 3, $29,000 being spent for election official supply boxes. Who did a cost comparison ratio? If we went back to strictly paper ballots, how much money would this county save? While considering moving to paper ballots and hand counting, the city of Milton in Georgia identified over $250,000 in cost savings in their first year alone. They're an example of where counties may find reduced costs along with increased voter confidence simply by moving to paper ballots. I understand that we have paper ballots that are imaged by machines. Those images are counted by the machines, but the paper ballots are never hand counted. The Board of Elections accepts electronic output without verifying a paper match. The accuracy testing does not touch the kind of areas that are open to fraud or error that we, the citizens, are concerned about. 3 people in District 13 did a write-in for the same person and their votes were not recorded. We petitioned to open the ballot boxes to check to see what happened, and we were denied. You commissioners don't want the ballot boxes open and instead tout that we have great machines and honest elections. I'd appreciate eye contact. These need to be verified. You commissioners were made aware of these issues with the machines, and you're also on the Board of Elections except when you're up for election. What steps have you taken to look into these missing votes and all the oddities that were brought to your attention in November and May elections in Bucks County? Tell us, why did you dismiss without looking into the complaints and concerns? Explain yourselves. Why not go back to paper ballots and hand counting in each precinct? Now that you're up for election, don't you want to make sure the election's safe and secure, or will you continue to ignore looking into evidence?
Vonna Darmond.
Vonna Diarmond, Plumstead. I had a question about letter V at the end, regular agenda, and C, other civics. So you have here Bridge Animal Clinic, No Longer Bound, Peace Valley Holistic Center, and Penridge Music Association receiving monies. I was wondering how do these decisions get made for giving money to these nonprofits? And I didn't know any of these, so I had to look them up. And one of them, the Peace Valley Holistic Center, looks really interesting to me. I can't believe it's so close to me. I didn't know it existed. It's to help special needs families and kids and with holistic approaches. I fully support that, and I think that's great. And I would like to hear more about them and how people can access their services. The No Longer Bound, I looked that up, And it says it's free prevention-based services, which I think many families could benefit from. And I think that's great. The Bridge Animal Clinic, I was just curious, it seems that that's getting the most money. So I was curious how those decisions are made and how you find the organizations that you give money to. Under the consent agenda, letter number 1B. So when it's listed the Comcast cable communications, it's to approve a contract for the cable TV services to seniors, but there's no amount. What exactly does that mean? Is this a program that's just always been going on, or is this something new? And then underneath that, number C, Megan M. Moore, psychology services. So I see that the county is giving 0%. So what does that mean when it's 0% that the county is providing? And then it's the psychological consulting services. Who gets those consulting services? On to letter, let's see, no, sorry, number 12D. So the Lenape Valley Foundation, I just thank you for supporting the Lenape Valley Foundation. We need more mental and behavioral health interventions. There's such a large waiting list, and Lenape does great work. So I appreciate your support of that organization. I was also curious about the letter E with the community, based services from the RTM LLC, how that helps or what they do. Number 15, I was curious with the Lenape Valley Foundation, what is a mitigation specialist services? I'm not sure what that is. And that's number 15 under public defender, letter A. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. Those are all the names on the list. Just going back, a couple of questions about the election boxes. I know, interestingly, Mr. Vogan knows what an election box is, but they'll turn to Ms. Humphrey, who oversees Board of Elections, to explain what exactly an election box is.
Thank you, Commissioner. Each election, we contract with this vendor. We've been using them for a few elections now. We like them a lot. They do a great job. William Penn, to create a supply box. I have one here on my lap. Looks like this. Here's a supply box. And what is in a supply box are important documents that poll workers need at the polls. So for example, in here is a cancellation notice if someone wants to cancel their voter registration. There's a voter registration card. There's a declaration that they fill out if they want to surrender their ballot. So you would be interested if they had a mail-in ballot and then if they decide they want to vote at the polls, there's a form for that. There's a form, a marriage form, so that might be change of name. And maybe that happened before the last time you vote and you want to do a name change at the polls. There's forms for change of address. There's a really great form in here for us to pay our poll workers, and we fill that out. There's the sample ballot, which has been used going back, all the elections that everyone's used to like before Act 77. That's the big one they hang on the wall. And let me see what else we have. Oh, we have pens. The pens are BIC, so they're a cost-saving measure. They're not expensive pens. We have some tape. We have some glue. There's an election manual if any one of our poll workers have questions about specific things with the election. So there's a lot of great information in here. I also want to answer some questions that were posed about things not related to what's on our agenda that were brought up about our election, though. Someone said there's no reason Bucks can't use paper ballots alone and not our machines. So the answer to that question is, quite frankly, state law. And someone cited things they do in Georgia. Bucks County does not have the power to administer elections, outside of state law. So the type of paper that we have that goes through our scanners, we have to use the scanners. We don't have a choice not to. I think that may be all the questions. I don't know if I missed any.
I think you got them. Yeah, I think you got them. Sorry, I was looking up some information for some of the things.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so that addresses, let's see. All that. In terms of some of the comments, let's go through the list here. To a transition housing, can probably look up in terms of how many people are actually housed in that. There was questions about, actually, I'll just start with one. The Comcast, that is a program that we have with Comcast to help senior citizens, especially during the pandemic when they were isolated. This program has been around before that, but expanded to help people who maybe their only contact with other people, the people who are elderly, is in a senior center when they can get there once a week, twice a week, sometimes every day of the week. But Comcast partners with us so that we can help people get connected, so that they have interaction. If they can't physically get to a senior center, they're able to do that. This is really just extending that contract with them so we can keep doing the program, which obviously we're excited to do. It relates to the 1A, which is right above it. So those two are connected. And obviously, since somebody asked about 1C, Ms. Moore, or offers psychological services, it's under Area Agency on Aging, so obviously the people who get the services are elderly Bucks County residents. So that was one. 0% cost essentially means it's paid usually through the aging block grant. So it's either federal money or state money. I think we've said that multiple times. If you see 0%, it usually means it's state or federal financing that comes through the county. Let's see. Some of those other ones here. Questions about things on anything in number 2, which is BHDP. BHDP is the department, and you can actually just look this up, Behavioral Health and Developmental Programs. This is for people who who have some sort of intellectual or physical disability. And so, for example, someone asked about a day shelter for adults. You know, there are people who were born with some type of disability, and while they're younger, of course, their parents can care for them, and then if they outlive their parents, there becomes, and they don't have any other family who are able to take care of them, we contract with nonprofits, in some cases for-profit businesses, that actually provide services to those adults so that they can go someplace so they can be safe, they can interact, they can learn job skills, they can do different things. So this is that. Mr. Regulo, there's a couple of questions about, you know, VPN, who gets VPN, if you want to touch on that.
Thank you, Commissioners, for your consideration. Here is a continuing contract with Lumen. Lumen provides our internet and firewall security services for us, as well as connectivity to many of our county buildings. So this is a continuation of a current contract. I will just note that we do have an RFP in the field to validate the contract is providing value to Bucks County residents. So this is a month-to-month continuation. Will be subject to the final awarding to the RFP. Thank you.
All right, thank you. A couple questions about well, actually, Mr. McLean asked questions about 2H9C, 9F, asking about these are ARPA funds and extend to 2024. ARPA funds can be used they have to be pledged by 24, spent by 26. That was the original law that was passed. Conscious of the fact that, you know, the impact of massive events like the worst pandemic in 100 years do not go away simply because, you know, the cases drop. Long COVID is still affecting people. People have lost jobs, businesses closed, you know, and so you have people who are having difficulty recovering from that. And so it's, you know, not unusual that you'd have that extended beyond that usual time frame that you're thinking of. The general services question about the contract being extended, I'm assuming, and I'll just ask Mr. Hutt in a second, I'm assuming the original date, 2/5/20 to completion, I'm guessing that traffic planning and design was the engineer that probably got awarded the work sometime in 2020, and they're just obviously continuing the work because it does say it's going to completion.
I believe that 2/5/20 was the completion of the design for the bridge, and then we ran into some obstacles for the Department of Environmental Protection, hydraulic studies, Fish and Game Commission, which has delayed this project and probably not going to happen until 2025. The change order is to do the studies that are required by the Department of Environmental Protections and the hydraulic studies. And Fish and Game also want a copy of everything that was done as well. So that's basically what it is. It should have been updated to show probably 2023, but that's basically it.
Okay, thank you. Question about 2A, in terms of how many people being served. It's 8 individuals. In terms of 2B, C, and D, question about why they're being extended. Why we're improving the contract increase has to do with either the one case it's added maintenance on the property or that we've done, or they used it more. You know, budgeting, especially when you're talking about providing human services, you can't accurately predict exactly how many people you're going to serve. You can use past trends and try to anticipate how many people you think you're going to serve. In some cases, you serve more, in which case, you know, we're certainly not going to not serve people because we have to serve more than we thought. But we do allow for the nonprofits and other partners we have, the vendors we have, to continue services, and then we reimburse them for anything that they may have gone over the original contract with. We've also seen times when there's underutilization. In fact, that did happen in one of these two. One of the things we had on our agenda, there was underutilization of one program, overutilization of other program, and so we're shifting funds from one to the other to make sure we can provide the services we need and do it in that manner. I do see that Diane Rosati is here. She would have actually from our Drug and Alcohol Commission, she actually would have, and I'm not going to put you on the spot right now, she would have the numbers in terms of people in the county who do receive drug and alcohol treatment and what's been happening with that. So, and I'm sure if you email the Drug and Alcohol Commission, they'd be happy to, they may even have it possibly on the website or have somewhere. So you take a look at that. Take a look. Bridge housing essentially is transitioning housing people, again, this is children, youth. And so if we have children who can't stay in their homes because it's not safe for them to be in their homes, but we don't yet have a more permanent house for them to go to, you know, the bridge housing provides that service so the kids can be safe. Let's see. Looking at 9, housing community development. We have quite a few questions periodically about housing and community development. I do see Jeff Fields is here, who is Director of Housing and Community Development. So if you just want to touch, Mr. Fields, if you don't mind coming up here, just touching briefly on what exactly some of these programs are and who they help and what the goal is.
Commissioner.
You might have to pull that closer, and it's a little, yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay. There were questions on, let's see, 9C, I believe. This is a property that was a private rental property housing individuals for many years. The owner passed away, and the family was going to sell the property, and thus gave eviction notices to everyone living there. Would have led to an increase in our homeless population. The county worked with the family to spend more time, as well as the Bucks County Housing Group, which is a nonprofit that specializes in providing affordable housing to acquire the property and to keep it affordable with the people living there. So there won't be new people moving in as so far as it's occupied. You know, but eventually it would be used as additional affordable housing with the same exact use as it is currently used. So there was a question about who's coming in. There's no families, and there's no change in use, as it did go to the local level and was approved to allow for this project to continue. So essentially, this stopped 12 to 13 people from being on the street. There was a question around housing location on 9F. The housing location program works with people in the shelters or in the street to place them into permanent housing. It's a vital part of the housing link system that keeps people, new people do fall into homelessness, and as a result of COVID, you know, our BERA program, which is the Emergency Rental Assistance, is trying to prevent as many of those as possible. Have prevented over 5,000 evictions from occurring. Doesn't prevent everything. When someone does fall into homelessness, we need to try to rehouse them as quickly as possible. The housing locators develop relationships with landlords to try to work with these landlords to help, you know, find open units. It's a very difficult market and it's very challenging to do, but this is the work they do full time. Just to give you an example, in a 1-year snapshot, they placed 128 separate homeless households into housing. That's 242 people with an 80% success rate. Last year alone, they added 35 new landlords in Bucks County. And again, these programs only serve Bucks County residents, so these are Bucks County residents moving into permanent housing, out of shelter and off the street. So, in my opinion, well worth the funding to have that program be supported. The return on investment is pretty high for the families who are experiencing unsheltered homelessness. I do want to just comment on, you mentioned 4A, the Bridge and Home program. That's a program that we work with in coordination with children and youth. It's actually permanent housing, so it's families that are either in the shelter system, so it's very similar to the previous program I was talking about, helping them exit the permanent housing they do not need to leave from. It was originally transitional, but essentially now it's all permanent leases. People can stay there. And so it's families that are experiencing homelessness, and it's families who, as a result of the housing, can be reunited. You know, the supporting the family's overall system. So that's what that is. And I did want to comment, because you meant on 2H, which is also a program that we, it's through behavioral health, but that Reach Out Foundation provides drop-in services. There's two sides to that building. One side is for the drop-in services you're describing, which is what 2G is. Is that 2? Yeah, 2G. 2H is a drop-in center specifically for people that are experiencing homelessness in conjunction with the Reach Out Foundation and the community that has been set up and works successfully to help divert people from public places and provide a place where there's steady services that are available, so people regularly are meeting there to get connected to street outreach workers, street medicine, their housing, case managers, housing locators to help people exit out of homelessness as quickly as possible. It only serves Bucks residents. It's served 219 residents since November. Over 14,500 hours of people using the services there. There's a shower and the ability for, you know, again, people to get connected and placed into housing. We had a 16% increase in unsheltered homelessness in the 2023 PIT count, so this is an attempt to try to address that by offering people a place to go that, you know, is a better connection to services than if they are just in random places where it's more difficult to connect. Was there other items that were asked questions about?
I think that was it, to be honest with you. I appreciate it. Appreciate the detail and appreciate obviously all the work you do. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you. All right, Director Kratz from the Corrections is not here, but just talking about item 5, which is contract extension, provide inmate telecommunication services. This specifically focuses on the system that allows inmates to communicate in a secure way with their attorneys. I mean, obviously, you know, a lot of the communications that go in and out of a prison get monitored for safety reasons, but, you know, communications between anybody who's in the prison and their attorney, you know, obviously can't be monitored. And so this allows for that kind of communication to happen so that inmates can communicate with their attorneys. And see, in terms of how things get on the other civics, to be quite honest with you, the other civics list hasn't really changed a whole lot, probably in decades. So there may have been a few things that added over the course of the years, but essentially there is another civics list that circulated by finance before the meetings, you know, and commissioners can take a look at that list and A lot of times there are requests that come in, letters that come from these nonprofits that are having some event coming up. They, are looking for their annual contribution. We take a look back at what some previous contributions have had over the past 3, 4, 5 years, and then typically it goes in line with whatever has been provided before. There are times when commissioners may bring a new item up. Any commissioner can ask for any other civic to be on the agenda. They just simply have to let the law department know, and it gets added on. And they also can recommend an amount. Like I said, in most cases, it's just what the amount has been for the past however many years it's been on the list. So, if you guys want to add something, sure.
The the hazardous materials grant.
Thank
So that is to purchase equipment to respond to radiological emergencies.
Right.
And then the other one was the human resources, A and B, number 10. This is a correction. The last agenda, they were put together in one item, so we just separated them out so that the payments go to the individuals that they need to.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. Emergency Management Director, Ms. Kenny's not here. She's actually out right now with representatives from the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency reviewing damaged properties from the flood. And so it's much more critical for her to be out with them. But just appreciate Ms. McKevitt reminding me of that. So, our emergency management agency is well-trained and keeps well-trained on any kind of disaster that may happen, including any kind of radiological issue. Obviously, we don't have a nuclear power plant here in this county, but we do have one that's, not too far away. And there, it's anything that can happen, they need to be prepared for. So, you want to add anything, or?
Well, I do have something I wanted to add, but I didn't know if the public defender, did you want to address the question that was made?
It was, yeah.
But you have to use the mic.
Yeah, Ms. Faust is here to talk about, or you can, 15, approve a contract to provide mitigation specialist services from Lenape Valley Foundation.
Sure. What a mitigation report is we contract with Lenape Valley to have a psychologist speak to our clients, to have, not in all cases, but in some of the more serious cases, to provide a psychological evaluation and look into background so that the sentencing judge has a more complete picture of the person that they're sentencing. The psychologist writes a report, and that's what's presented to the judge. Because we use the frequency with which we use Lenape Valley, they gave us a much reduced rate, so it actually saves the county money to have this contract. But that's basically what a mitigation report is. Thank you.
Thank you. And the other item, maximum supervision. Somebody asked about maximum supervision, what that term means. A state term for community residential rehabilitation. Basically reflects 24-hour staff supervision on site. So that's the maximum supervision, that you always have somebody there at that facility doing that kind of monitoring. All right. Okay. Sure, you want to say?
Just a couple things. The first one was somebody had said something positive about Lenape Valley, and I appreciate that, but there had been a negative comment made as well about Penn Foundation, and I just want to say that that was not appropriate, and Penn Foundation saves lives every day. And also about Reach Out Foundation, and the man named Doug's name was put out there, and I have to say Reach Out Foundation and Doug are both doing God's work every day. Also want to talk for just a minute about the Board of Elections and some comments that were made about that. I find it amusing that people are still coming up here and they are parroting lies about election integrity, even after they know that the person they got the lies from was indicted yesterday for these lies. It's amazing. For the third time, no less. And it still isn't getting through that there was no problem. Having said that, I would also add that I've been voting for 44 years, and we were never on a paper ballot until the last Board of Commissioners did what the state said and got us on the paper ballots we are on now. We are on paper ballots, and Ms. Humphrey is also correct. We were given, when I was on this board with 2 other commissioners, a number, I think there was 4 or 5 different companies, and we had to choose from one of them, and it had to be a paper ballot, and that is what we did. And the final thing I would like to say is there was a comment made about our Board of Elections employee. And the first thing I want to say is I want to wish Tom Freitag good luck. Thank you for all the time and commitment you've made. But Kelly Gale is a fine woman who works very hard. She is committed to this county. I have known her and her family for decades. And it is not appropriate when someone works that hard every day to make sure that elections are delivered to disparage them, and she doesn't deserve it.
Thank you. Well said. All right, those are the comments on the agenda. We'll now look at the consent agenda. We have the minutes of July 19th, 2023. Is there any, are there any comments or corrections for those minutes? Hearing none, we'll incorporate those with the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the entire consent agenda, minutes plus items 1 through 17C?
So moved. Second?
All right, motion by Commissioner Girolamo, second by Commissioner Marseglia. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, regular agenda personnel actions on the commissioners list. Any comments or corrections on those? None? Okay. This is just the commissioner side of the personnel actions. Is there a motion to approve?
Second?
You betcha. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, in terms of appointments, board appointments, we have 2 new appointments to the Bucks County Emergency Health Advisory Council. Mr. James Glessner, his term, he is the paramedic health professional. His term will end 2/1/2025. Mr. Scott Henley is an at-large member, also a new appointment. His term will also end 2/1/2025. Is there a motion for those 2 gentlemen?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Other civics, contributions being made to the Bridge Animal Clinic of $4,000, No Longer Bound $2,000, Peace Valley Holistic Center $3,000, Penn Ridge Music Association $250. Is there a motion to make those contributions?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Chief Operating Officer, Commissioner, sorry, I think I demoted you. Ms. McKevitt?
Thank you, Commissioner. If it pleases the board, I would like to, I have 2 surprise presenters today. One, Matt Allen, if you could come join us. He's our Director of Veterans Affairs, and he's going to provide us with an update on the PACT Act.
Oh, great, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, COO. This is the PACT Act, which was signed into law by President Biden on October 10th, 2022. And if this is a brief presentation, we could talk about this for hours with the veterans that this involves. Next slide. What the PACT Act addresses is healthcare, which is additional healthcare for veterans who served in specific locations, presumption of service connection, which if you served in burn pit locations in the Middle East, there's 29 additional presumptive illnesses that are now service connection. And if during Vietnam, there's 2 additional presumptive illnesses, hypertension, and I'm not going to even attempt to pronounce the medical term, but MGUS. And according to Betty, who works in Veterans Affairs, she says, most people don't know what it is unless you have it. So there's going to be increased research for ongoing matters to additionally help the veterans who served in these locations and other matters related to veterans who were exposed to the toxic substances during military service. Next slide. So these are just different laws and subsections towards the PACT Act. And I'm just going to go over it briefly. So toxic exposed veterans, this section provides eligibility for Department of Veterans Affairs to provide additional medical care, including mental health services, counseling, to veterans who served in specific locations. Section 104, every 5 years, the VA must conduct a toxic exposure assessment to all veterans who served and are now receiving medical care at VA hospitals. Next slide. Subtitle B, certain veterans of combat service and other matters. Section 111. This extends the eligibility period for VA hospital care There's 3 different categories of VA veterans that over the next 10 years can then gain additional care through the VA Medical Center. Next slide. Veterans exposed to Agent Orange and other certain herbicides. This is for Vietnam veterans and expands the locations to include Navy personnel who were in the ocean off the coast. Next slide. The Fair Care for Vietnam Veterans Act of 2022. What this is just, it's the 2 additional presumptive illnesses for those that served in Vietnam, which is the hypertension and MGUS. Next slide. Presumptive benefits for warfighters exposed to burn pits and other toxins Act of 2022. There's specific locations that service members serve that they are exposed to burn pits, which is the reason why they included the 29 presumptive illnesses for service connection. And I can go further in depth in that if there's veterans that are listening or here in attendance. If you want to contact the Veterans Affairs Office, we can go further in depth with where those locations are. Next slide. The PACT Act and burn pit exposure, 29 new presumptive illnesses. It expands the health care for veterans of Vietnam, Gulf War, and post 9/11. The VA must provide toxic exposure screenings to every veteran, and it is increasing the VA research on these exposed toxics exposures. Next. These are the 29 presumptive illnesses. Again, some of these medical terms I'm not going to attempt to pronounce, but you can continue on. The PACT Act deadline, so on August 10th, it was signed into law. Now, this doesn't preclude veterans from filing a disability compensation claim after August 9th, which is the deadline. All it does is it makes it so that when they do file an intent to file after August 9th, it will only go back to the time where they filed their intent to file for a disability claim. If they file prior to next Wednesday's August 9th deadline and they wait a year to file for the presumptive illnesses, it will get backdated back to August 10th of 2022. So it's pertinent to get your intent to file in by August 9th. And these are the references. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Appreciate it. Mr. Allen, just real fast, are you seeing in your office, obviously you've only been there a few months, so Betty, who's been there much longer, have you seen since this law was passed and signed by President Biden last year, has there been an uptick of people asking about it or knowing about it and contacting the office?
That's primarily the only veterans during this current year that have filed for or did an intent to file. There are some other veterans that are included in that, but it's primarily veterans that are included in the PACT Act under those guidelines.
Okay. All right. Appreciate that.
Yeah, just real quick, I want to thank and commend Matt for, on Monday of this week, we had a ceremony out in the courtyard honoring our Korean War vets, a number of them from Bucks County who passed away. And I want to thank Matt for organizing that. I think it was the 70th anniversary of the end of the war, 1953. So thank you, Matt, for doing that.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. And Diane, if you could join us. Diane Rosati is the Executive Director of the Drug and Alcohol Commission, and I asked her to join us to talk about the International Overdose Awareness Day and how we're recognizing it for the month. Little preview of next meeting's opioid settlement funds program.
Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. I'm so pleased to be here today to share with you a bit of information on the upcoming International Overdose Awareness Day, which occurs globally on August 31st. You will see folks, including me today, wearing purple, and you'll see that the purple color signifies remembering folks that we've lost due to accidental drug poisoning or overdose. So on that day especially, We consider those that we've lost, and also consider their family members and their friends and the impact on our community. Drug and Alcohol Commission every month holds a monthly campaign to raise awareness in the community, and this is the August commitment that we have to ensure that residents who've lost loved ones are offered resources and services. As Ms. McEvitt said, the next commissioner meeting, you'll hear a summary of where we are with the opioid settlement project, which is quite significant in Bucks County. Reducing fatal overdose, of course, is our primary goal. In order to do that, yet again, I'm going to offer and ensure that residents know that certainly the county commissioners have asked us to increase access to Narcan or naloxone in the communities. Every resident of Bucks County can and should have access to Narcan, regardless of whether or not you know someone who uses opioids. It could be someone who is an older adult who takes too much of the medication that they're prescribed. It could be a youth who's had orthopedic surgery and is prescribed an opioid. It can be a mistaken overdose, but we want to make sure that everyone has access. And so we provide these kits at no cost, of course, to the community. It contains 2 doses of Narcan, instructions on how to use it, a mask, a set of gloves, a refrigerator magnet on how you can prepare your family. And it's quite simple. As I said, it contains 2 doses. This is the dose of Narcan. It's a nasal spray. It's 1 dose in the nose, and I will show you how to use it right now. Just like this, it's a spray, and that can save someone's life. So thanks to the commissioners for encouraging us to purchase a significant amount of Narcan nasal spray. We have it available in this building, and the Drug and Alcohol Commission is ready to distribute it. We've seen significant results. The law enforcement officers who were here today, including the Sheriff's Department and including the District Attorney, all of Bucks County law enforcement has been at the forefront of carrying Narcan nasal spray since it was allowable in 2015. Just law enforcement alone, including Bucks County Security, the Sheriff's law enforcement, have saved 1,886 lives of our residents. That would fill this room 18 times. So we are making an impact in the community. That is just law enforcement, but they are carrying that Narcan every day, and we're so grateful for all that they do and to everyone. So please join us. We have many activities set for August that will provide not only Narcan nasal spray, but honor folks who are in recovery in Bucks County from opioid use disorder. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Just one.
Diane, just a quick question. Our treatment facilities here in Bucks County, across the state and across the country, and they've gone through an enormous amount of challenges in treating people, and we know how difficult this disease is, especially when people first get into treatment. There was a comment made earlier in the public comment about the Penn Foundation. And I've been up there a number of times and, talked to them and been associated with them, and I've never heard in my time as a public servant any kind of comments and disparity of the work that they're doing up there. And as you as our SCA here in Bucks County, have you heard any comments and along those lines?
So as they're known now, St. Luke's Penn Foundation is one of the cornerstones of our treatment network in Bucks County. We consider them to be a tremendous partner. They offer services, and they were really in the forefront of all of our providers in offering mobile engagement services, which to this day is very highly regarded and is expanding from upper to lower county in response to community need, including some commissioner feedback. So they offer intervention services, outpatient treatment, as well as residential care and withdrawal management. They are a tremendous partner for not only the Drug and Alcohol Commission, but also for folks who are enrolled in Health Choices in Medicaid.
Yeah. As far as the county goes, you have no reservations about sending people up to the Penn Foundation. Is that
We
correct?
have no reservations. They are a gem of a provider for Bucks County.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, just one last thing, just a reminder that the Household Hazardous Waste Collection Program is August 12th, 8:30 to 2 at the Bucks County Technical High School in Fairless Hills. We hope our residents will attend. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Solicitor's report, Ms. Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Commissioner. Just one item to report. The board held its standing executive session yesterday, August 1st, with staff and legal counsel to discuss personnel matters and also to receive confidential legal advice about both pending and prospective litigation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving to public comment. Mr. Vogan.
Scott Vogan, Warrington Township. Commissioner Harvey, at the last meeting, you responded to my public comments as personal conflicts. The courts have ruled personal conflicts do not apply when anti-Semitic and disability slurs are made. And that's been made to me as a judge of elections in my job, and no one is protecting me. And I will swear this in court that Diane Marseglia did say the county will not protect me. That is the job of the Board of Elections, to protect. That is the first line of defense, the judges of elections. You can't have it. Nat Kelly, Gail, is telling me to call on election day, and I call on election day because my constable's interfering with my staff. And then she says, just put it in an email because I'm too busy. She should be on the phone saying, get out of that room. Leave the judge to run that room. That's been going on. So, like I said before, I have no problem swearing in court that I'm not getting the protection. And we'll see what happens. And right now, the Board of Elections, to use an analogy, is substitute teachers. Because they're waiting for you to come back after the election. And that's the way it's worked ever since this election law has been passed. And I'm not going to go into election law because I've told Brian Monroe and State Senator Ferry that it should be replaced, but that's a different story. That's their job, not yours. But the fact is, it's been going on. And it's not personal conflicts. It's personal attacks. And it's an assault on the office of Judge of Elections. And that's wrong. And that's what needs to be protected because that's the first line of defense. The second line would be a strong leadership in the Board of Elections office that says to both parties, control yourselves, because if you can't control yourselves, we will get involved, and you don't want to get involved, like what goes on in Montgomery County. Thank you.
Edward Mackhouse.
Ed Mackhouse again, Buckingham, physicist, former teacher. Go back to the money issues. The climate change, Dr. John Glusser, physicist, says there's $1 trillion wasted in this climate change hope. So that's money we need for other things. The other thing is Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's running for president, has been denied Secret Service protection. His uncle and his father were killed. I think this is ridiculous. I think President Biden is very unpopular, and he should allow competition with the Democrats as well as with Republicans. And I don't think he should smear everyone that wants to run against him, and they should be giving protection. And so, and then the issue of transgenders and equity, gender equity. We have rights of women. Women should be respected. RESPECT. Girls should not be threatened. There shouldn't be, a male, biological male doesn't have any rights to violate women's rights for security and privacy and to compete with them in sports. And so this is, this benefits the billion-dollar transgender medical industry, where a California doctor gets $1.5 million a year for doing these transgender surgeries. I commend Dr. Luca Bell, defending gay children. The gay children should not be abused and have lifetimes of suffering from these unsuccessful transgender surgeries. And the money spent to protect the children is much better than for the doctors exploiting the children. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Robert McLean.
Having served during Vietnam, I certainly do appreciate your support of the veterans. My presentation is How We Love Our Enemies, excerpts from an editorial by Cole Richards, President and Voice of the Martyrs. As I minister to persecuted Christians in restricted nations, I am struck by their willingness to suffer in order to obey Christ's command immediately and without qualification. Their example leads me to ask, have I unwittingly fallen into a trap of obeying only those commands that I understand and with which I agree? Our Lord has said, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you so that you may be the sons of your Father who is in heaven, Matthew 5:44 and 45. Since loving our enemies is such a clear command, one that Jesus identifies as a distinctive trait of God's children, we must not allow ourselves to avoid it. Unfortunately, far too many Christians avoid this topic altogether. We love him, so we obey his commands. As we move forward in obedience, the fog begins to clear and we can see how to love our enemies. Since they are lost and face eternal separation from their Creator, the most loving act possible is to reach them with the gospel, the truth of Christ, that the Holy Spirit can use to lead them to repentance, forgiveness of sin, and eternal life. Some have rejected Christ's command to love our enemies because they have misinterpreted it to mean that we must be nice to people who intend to harm us. But being kind to lost people in any way that leaves them lost is the opposite of loving them. We ultimately obey Christ's command to pray for those who persecute us by praying for their salvation, and then we ultimately obey his command to love our enemies by bringing them the only truth that can set them free. Thank you.
Yep. Kyun Lee.
I came here just to talk about, what I think should be done and, in terms of just following the law. And the reason why I came out is because whether the county goes through the due diligence of going through the database and making sure it's changed and reviewed every year, the state's gonna come down and mandate and tell you guys what to do. And as county elected officials, you have the authority God gave you to have that oversight and go by the rules that are in the books. And and the books there's a lot of laws in the books that help you to govern, right? Like there's, Title 25, section 1222, section item 11, 12, 17, and there's a lot of sections, there's a lot of laws in the books that support you in terms of, representing this county appropriately. Even the judge of elections, right? And the inspectors, you can kind of have mail-in ballots, have them reviewed at the local precinct, and that's still within the law, right? And that would kind of make it more legitimate, going back to the way, Diane was mentioning was before. It would probably work better in that way. It gives you that authority. You don't have to, you have some wiggle room, right? Whether there's a problem with addiction, yes, we're broken, right? But it has to be a combination solution, because broken people don't get fixed. We need the Lord, we need God, but we also need people, and things have to come at the right time. It's the synergy of things. That's why we have government, that's why things work together. But I'm hoping that, everyone here, I'm not disparaging any work that you do. I appreciate all the work that you do and the sacrifice that you've given, and everyone here that's representing. But, I think we can do better. And I think, that's only my suggestion, that we have wiggle room, and, you guys have great minds. Let's put it together and, just go through the laws. You guys have great lawyers here. Figure out what works, and don't let the state tell you what to do, all right?
Liz Yos? Yeah, they're so-so. They're so-so.
Liz Yos, Northampton Township. Mr. Harvey, at the last commissioners meeting, I mentioned that the commissioners are the Board of Elections. You said that you are not the Board of Elections currently. I am well aware of the fact that during the election cycle, you must appoint other people to take your place on the Board of Elections. That does not negate your responsibility to the voters of Bucks County. At least 3 out of 4 years, you are the Board of Elections, and you are responsible for ensuring that the voter rolls are clean. The Bucks County voter roll currently has 6 people who have not voted since November 1984. 4 are listed as active. I have a hard time believing that these people have responded to any correspondence that the county has sent for decades. I would like to know how many letters go out each year, how many people are made inactive, and how many are purged each year. When you appoint people to replace you during the election cycle, you should make sure that these people are capable of performing these very important duties to continue to ensure clean elections for the citizens of Bucks County. Ms. Marseglia, you have boasted that that this Board of Commissioners has been the first to live stream and put the commissioners' meetings online. I just learned of a system called Eagle AI. It is an innovative collection of databases such as the NCOA, obituaries, commercials, real estate addresses, as well as others. It is used to clean up voter rolls in an efficient and cost-effective way. In your role on the Board of Elections, why not insist on utilizing this cutting-edge system to make Bucks County voter rolls clean for your constituents, the people who pay your salary? For years, prominent Democrats have talked about stolen elections from them, but someone like me is belittled for wanting to have secure elections. Shame on you, Ms. Marseglia, and everyone else here. Read the book Parallel Election. It contains evidence of voter fraud in 2020. Thank you.
Lori Katz? Oh, I apologize. I apologize. Beth Curcio, then Ms. Katz.
Have we learned nothing from the tyranny of the COVID pandemic lockdowns? The commissioners are a perfect example of implementing tyranny. Our government is not our friend. It has blown up like a big balloon. Exactly why our founding fathers wrote the Constitution. They are indoctrinated talking heads and have been selected by the Uniparty. They do what they are told and promised some kind of rainbow. Whatever happened with the caring about humanity? Saying doing it for the greater good is like walking off the plank and giving it up, all your God-given freedoms. These elected officials salute the flag and say the pledge. Do they understand it? They certainly don't follow it. They shut down our businesses, or closed our schools, muzzled our children. When Congress and Senate were exempt from the bioweapon jab, your commissioners told you you had to get it to keep your jobs and benefits, and you would need to take it. How's that for freedom? We are now seeing the results. Don't worry, mainstream media will not be reporting them like they did the COVID countdown death on CNN. If sudden death weren't enough, now people are dying from turbo cancer death in a few short weeks. Mr. Harvey will tell you they are safe and effective like childhood vaccines. Tell that to the parents that lost babies to sudden death, have autism, and many other autoimmune diseases. Did you know the Amish never get autism, cancer, Alzheimer's, or many other diseases? They ignore the government during COVID and never get any kind of vaccines. The commissioners have time to attend drag queen shows where minors are present. They have time to make fake commercials that they say they're transparent, but they still won't hold a town meeting so that more of the public can attend. They sue mothers with taxpayer money for filing right to knows. Then when they lose, they file appeal. I'd like to know a figure on how much the taxpayer has spent on their legal fees. Diane, you actually gaslighted the people last week by using a horrific tragedy that occurred in the flood. They were not being negative. They were using their 2 minutes to point out the total corruption on your part. God wins in the end.
Thank you. Lori Katz?
Multiple people have requested you create access for residents that work during the day by holding a monthly town hall meeting in the evening so that they can bring up topics and have discussion right here in this room. Please tell our community why you commissioners refuse. You all refuse. Now is the time to give constituents the opportunity to publicly interact as you're hoping to keep your jobs in November. You've made it abundantly clear in several meetings that you, Mr. Harvey, are a history teacher. What I get from interaction with you, or lack thereof, is that you're used to lecturing. This is not your classroom and we are not your students. In here, you are supposed to work for us, we the people. What I've seen over the past year and a half or more is you commissioners purposely bypass topics that are brought forward by citizens and ignore themes that don't align with your DC agenda. If we try to explain ourselves when you misunderstand us or ignore our request to address a concern, you gavel us for speaking out from the audience. This environment that you commissioners create is not one of the community, but one of division. America is not totalitarian just yet, though I've never realized how much socialism has infiltrated our county until I started attending these meetings. If people even knew what a commissioner is and the position that commissioners hold in this county, they'd pay way more attention to how it affects their daily lives and their tax dollars. How long do we have to wait for you to schedule this evening meeting? So far, it's been almost 2 years. On another note, residents, please watch the docuseries called Remedy. It will be taken down after tomorrow. If I had more than 2 minutes, I'd let you know more, but the commissioners limit us to 2 minutes. In short, it's complementary to the documentary called Died Suddenly, which is still available on Rumble. Remember that contemplation is mentally healthy.
Vonna Darmond.
Vonna Darmond, Plumstead. Thank you for answering the questions about the agenda. Mr. Harvey, you made comments on the co-sponsor's presentation about keeping folks out of jail. And I'm so glad that you made that comment because I wanted to ask the commissioners to please make funding available to the Sheriff's Department for the staff that they need. Crime has increased considerably in Bucks County and in Doylestown and in the Central Bucks region. I am asking that you would support the Sheriff's Office and to consider providing them with resources for a student resource officer. We have a resource officer at Central Bucks East and Central Bucks South. The Central Bucks School Board offered a fully funded 5-year contract to the Central Bucks Regional Police Board, but the board voted no to providing the resource officer. For those who are not familiar with what a student resource officer is and does, I urge you to watch the presentation made to the Central Bucks School District operations meeting several months ago. It's available on their website. Also see the Patch article about Rob Bell, who is the current student resource officer at South. A former student spoke about how he really helped him to keep him off of going down a bad path. So it's all about relationships that the SRO forms with the kids, and it prevents at-risk kids from going down the wrong path and then ending up in our juvenile or adult jail systems. And it can help prevent crime in the schools. And it can prevent school shootings, it can prevent bullying, it can prevent teacher-on-student crime and crime on student-on-teacher. Our current school board and administration is committed to protecting children, and I know that you commissioners are too, because of all the support that you provide with the social services to help kids. So please consider doing what you can to help with this important issue and continue to protect the kids and the administration here in Central Bucks. Thank you.
Okay, it's next item on the list. At the salary board meeting before this meeting, the salary board unanimously did approve an SRO from the Sheriff's Office for Central Bucks. It really should be something. It really should be something the Central Bucks Regional Police does. Quite frankly, the school resource officer, the entire point of a school resource officer, and I had been teaching for, I guess, 5 years when Columbine happened. So for most of my career, I was involved in, if not doing active school or active shooter drills, actually running them for a while in the school where I was on that committee. The whole point of a school resource officer is really so that they not just having a gun in the classroom or in a school. It's more about having somebody, a police officer who knows that community, knows the area, knows the kids. It really should be something that the local police do, and for the most part they do. But in this case, they have some troubles that we're hoping that they can get through the commission, and so it's something that might change in the future. But in terms of other issues, Board of Elections, as we've said multiple times, in the years when you are on any commissioner who's on a ballot for any office cannot be on the Board of Commissioners. So even if one of the three of us were running for something completely unrelated, we wouldn't be allowed to be on the Board of Commissioners. We do not appoint our replacements. Currently, there are 3 judges who are appointed. They are appointed by the president judge. That's not something we have input on. The president judge chooses judges to sit on the Board of Elections, and they sit there, and we basically, we obviously let them do their jobs. In terms of the continued claims about voter fraud and the various intonations that there's some problem somewhere in Bucks County, it occurred to me over the last, I'm obviously an elected official for a long time, as is Commissioner Seglia, Commissioner DiGirolamo. We've both been involved in elections for a long time. But until you actually watch the election process happen in this building, until you actually watch the people who work in the Board of Elections do their job, and it is a 12-month-a-year job. It's not just when there are elections happening. Excuse me. Until you watch that, you realize that you don't know very much about elections in terms of how they're run, and especially about the security that goes into them. I do not think it is a stretch to say elections in this county and in this country and this Commonwealth have never been safer than they are right now, in terms of the background checks and duplications and triplications and everything else. Elections are a lot like icebergs. People know what they see. They know when they go in, they vote, they leave. They do not see anything that happens underneath. And that is unfortunately where the conspiracy theories and the lies can flourish, and why people can be, excuse me, stop yelling from the audience, please, and why people can get confused. And I don't blame the people in the room, quite frankly. I think if I was watching certain news outlets constantly, I think I would get swayed the same way. Fact of the matter is, in 2020, this county was sued 11 times by the losing candidate for president and different groups associated with him. We won all 11 suits, simply because we did things right. In fact, the attorney at one point for the loser of that campaign was asked in court by the judge, what evidence do you have of voter fraud? And the attorney had to say none. So I'm proud of the work that our staff does. They do things, they follow the law, they do things the right way, and I would, again, encourage people to, understand how complex the entire process is. In terms of Mr. Vogan's comment, Mr. Vogan, the person you're talking about, you are an elected official. The individual you talk about having conflict with you is also elected. This people of that community elected the 2 of you. That does not allow us, if you're having problems, it does not allow this county to get involved in that process. If people don't like one of the 2 of you, then they should vote somebody else in, or I believe both of you are from the same political party. If the political party can't negotiate some kind of solution, then that's something that's, no more than we can go into, some township somewhere where there are 2 supervisors arguing and come in and say, okay, we want you to change. People are elected. And constables under the law in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, constables are empowered, actually more empowered than police are, on election day in that polling place to enforce the rules, which gives us even less power, quite frankly. So, and lastly, I just want to thank Mr. McLean for his service. Having had 2 uncles who were Vietnam veterans, appreciate your service to the country. And that's it for public agenda. Commissioner comment? Commissioner DiGirolamo?
No comments today, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Commissioner Seglia?
I just wanted to correct the record on one thing. The Amish community, which was resistant to the vaccine, was hit incredibly hard by COVID-19. Thank you.
So, all right, finally, just, we started off with a great presentation showing about, so how sometimes you have to think outside the box. You know, complex problems require complex and creative solutions. We had a couple chiefs, two of the biggest police departments in Bucks County, were here to speak about the co-responder program that was created by this board unanimously 3 years ago. It has been immensely successful. And when it comes to addressing issues with crime, with addiction, with mental health, it does require actual effort. It requires more than sound bites. It requires more than a simplistic view of the world or what's going to fit on a bumper sticker. It does require people who are willing to push the envelope and find new solutions. And again, I'll thank Commissioner Segle for doing that. It's a shame it didn't happen sooner, quite frankly. But finally she's managed to get two county commissioners to join with her and support this. So I'm proud to be on that team. And I'd also agree with one of our commenters here that mental health is a problem. We need more mental health facilities and services, which is why this county broke ground last week on a mental health diversion assessment rehabilitation treatment center, okay? Which is going to be located on the property that used to be the Women's Community Correction Center in Doylestown Township. It is specifically to serve people who get in trouble with the law and have some sort of mental health issue so that we can try and help them get through the troubles they're getting through and do so in a safe manner so they're not in the prison. And we're also working with Lenape Valley Foundation and Doylestown Hospital on a crisis center because we recognize something that the state and federal governments still are very slow to recognize or slow to act on, and it's criticism of both parties, quite frankly, that we need to address mental health in a serious way in this country. And we're seeing it even when it comes to school resource officers, having to be something that certainly has a lot to do with the culture we've bred in this country. And to an extent in the school district, but we're hoping that we can start moving things in a better way or keep moving things in a better way. So I want to return a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye.